In my conversations with senior people in government and senior people at state and local government, other states are very much looking at the Victorian changes with a strong eye, wondering what they should do if there is that case for change. The governments have taken note of what they see as rising household budget stress. They need to be seen to be doing something. And as we know, local government is also often stuck as the one holding the can. And sadly, that may happen in other states too. Looking at what's happened in Victoria, there's been updates to the mandatory requirements around payment plans, specifically looking at that longer period before you can collect.
That image was in the Courier Mail, and basically it's citing that 4 in 5 Australians are feeling some kind of stress. Report last month from ASIC. Look at some of these statistics. So half of us are struggling to meet financial obligations. 56% didn't know that hardship was an option. And even when people do know, they're too scared to use it because they feel they'll be overcharged. So that shows the importance of communication and proactivity, right? To let ratepayers know exactly how council can help.
50% don't want to engage because they're embarrassed, afraid, feel like they're sticking out their hand when maybe they've never had to do that, or they're just worried about the implications of that. And it's really this 50% that end up in the long-term arrears, where with the best practices, you can get them to engage early and get them to be a bit more proactive because you've helped them. One way to look at the best practices in payment plans is what do you look at when they get to that point? And we will implement that, and we will show that today. The other bit is how do we stop them needing to be used in the first place? I think some councils don't understand the ability they have to influence this. You have the ability to change your arrears level based off proactively influencing processes and how you interact with your community. And I think a good model to look at is thinking of what we call the Payble customer period. People enter arrears after they fall through these categories. So if you're able to prevent them from falling through, then by logic, you prevent people entering in arrears and then even needing to end up in collections. So what we want to talk about just for this section is, well, how do you do that? And what are the best practices to prevent people moving down the pyramid? We're going to look at Dandenong here and what they did for 2023-2024. And it was the first full year that they'd implemented Payble and used the system to help. Dandenong implemented Payble on the rates notice with the scan to pay QR code, as well as that a lot of buttons on the website to direct to pay now or pay online or create flexible payments, allowing those to come to the Payble experience. What we were able to do is in Payble, where we pull out of the property and rating system all of their outstanding amounts. Dandenong implemented a way here where we take that total balance, so the arrears as well as the upcoming payments, and that's smoothed out across the current rating year. So the customer's on one payment schedule, but that schedule would catch them up to pay off both the arrears and make sure that they catch up on their current plan. All of these payments end up at the same place. It's just the flexibility the customer gets to choose what frequency they like.
88% of Australians receive their salary monthly. So it means that even though your ratepayers want to pay you today, many cannot because they don't have the money in their account, right? So this is an amazing feature to allow that shift.
And then we're prompting the customer, great, you've chosen this plan. How do you want to pay for the plan? And that's where the options of credit card and bank account are presented. So both of these are set and forget payments. So bank account direct debit, we got approval from all the banks in Australia to do digital direct debit. So there's no paper form, and they consent, and they see Jane here is opted in to be receiving payment receipts via email too. Now, a couple things happen at that point. The first thing is Jane gets a confirmation via SMS, and SMS is great instant feedback.
Is there evidence that this is actually producing results for council?
We've got some great data on how effective this is. So looking at for those customers in arrears, we tracked all the customers in arrears that came through the flow, and where they entered a payment plan, they completed that plan on schedule 85% of the time. Now, that's not just they paid off the arrears, it's they paid off the arrears and their current period. So they caught up. They ended the year at zero by the due date. And that's phenomenal. This alone has $1 million impact to council when you look at it across the entire arrears life cycle, as well as all the team time saving. I know so many councils where they look at payment plans separately. Their community says, oh, I've got this plan, but they're never actually paying off the current rates. So they're always behind. One payment, one plan, one amount, keep on track. It's so much better for the customer. With Dandenong, and on their path to that best practice, and we're implementing lots of different things, something that we identified was they wanted the ability for the customer also can lodge their plan request. That's opening the conversation with that customer in an easy way to get them a plan that suits both them and the council without sort of pushing them away. Customer sets the start date. The customer then creates their offer. Then that creates a request for council. That's now just put them on the same path to success as every other customer. And Sally, I was actually going to ask you, what made you want to request this and look at adding this kind of option?
We had a big backlog of arrears and payment arrangements that weren't being met. COVID was really bad for that, and nothing really kind of happened for 3 years. So we did a big audit and kind of said, okay, where are we at? How are we going to track it? How are we going to keep people on schedule? And we saw that the flexible payments with Payble, with the SMS reminders and that sort of thing, and the self-service was really well taken up with our councils. And it also, we had a lot of people asking for direct debit for payment arrangements.
How long did it take City of Dandenong to get approval and implement Payble?
Implementation for us was definitely a quick one. It was literally done in 8 weeks from, initial project meeting of, hey, we're implementing Payble to we are now live with Payble. That's probably not something I would always recommend to most people. Most of that 8 weeks was really Payble and the rates team sort of working together to understand, what are the minimum payment requirements, what are the frequencies that we're going to allow. And really that integration of the technology was really quite simple. So those 8 weeks also included implementing a new payment gateway as well. So considering it was sort of quite a short time, it was, really easy. It wasn't until like 2 weeks after we'd gone live, I had someone in rates go, oh, we haven't had many people sign up to Payble. It's been a bit slow. And I'm sort of thinking, what do you mean? There's been 1,000 people sign up. The person I was talking to was actually using the test link. So to see that not only could we implement, in 8 weeks, but go live, have 1,000 people sign up, and literally not affect Sally and her team. When I'm sure everyone else here who doesn't have something like Payble to set up 1,000 direct debits, I'm sure their teams would not be happy about that amount of work.
So I'll be putting together a guide covering the content that we've explored in this webinar, but also some other things that we didn't have time to cover. And all of you will receive a copy of that in your inbox, probably about 48 hours from now. We'd love to meet with you and produce an output that allows you to understand areas that you can optimize your payments in that way, that it's a preventative method, but also looking at payment plans specifically and how we deal with arrears. So here's Elliott's email, or you can get in touch with me. We'd love to do that.